Dr. Mike Israetel. D for 3D delts. Today we'll be ranking the best and worst shoulder exercises. And at the end of the video, we'll give you the best shoulder exercise for each head of the delts. Let's start with the front delts. The barbell overhead press. What tier?
Hypertrophy. Taking all variables into account. Standing. Taking all the variables into account, I would say it's C or D tier. Taking vibes into account, S tier. I don't know if you want to throw this video in the edit, but I've standing pressed 275 for 8, 125 kg. And so I have full authority to call it a dog shit exercise because I've shoulder pressed more than almost everyone or something. The thing is like on raw stimulus magnitude, it's psychotically awesome for your front delts. The problem is it's a crazy amount of fatigue for your back, axial fatigue. The overall systemic fatigue is insane. On some of those back in the day shoulder press, because I also did like 240 pounds, 110K for 4x10 in the same workout. I did, before that, I did 240 for one set of 10. I've done 225 for a whole bunch. On many of those sets, my quads were either cramped or borderline almost cramping from stability. My abs were almost cramping. My lower back, my glutes were flexed. That kind of stability that's required to push maximum loads way overhead is systemically so fatiguing that if you just on raw stimulus, it's great exercise, but the fatigue division, the bottom part of the fraction is so massive that if someone's like, what if you sat down? You'd be like, okay, it's way better. Okay, so what if you used a machine that allowed you to come to the outsides everywhere else? Like, okay, it's better still. What if you used a different angle? Actually, something I learned from you a little while ago is dips, and actually I would amend that to bench dips. You know, when you're reaching behind, the angle of stretch on the front delts is just like unmatched. And so when you put it in that perspective and you fill in all the other tiers, like if you can imagine like standing, D tier, seated barbell, C tier, seated dumbbell or machine, B tier, dips of some kind, A tier, bench dips, S tier. Now when someone's like, why would you say D tier? I literally have every other slot filled, you know. Now exercises can occupy the same slot, no problem. But yeah, on vibes and just manhood strength, I mean, amazing. And raw stimulus, amazing. So if you're a younger lifter, you're a beginner, and you want to get overall strong and get your delts jacked, hey, listen, overhead press till you're blue in the face. It's great. But as you get more advanced and stronger, you might want to go to seated and then more machine work, dumbbell work, and maybe even incorporate dips and all the other stuff too.
Solid. I agree with C. What about the seated version then?
Seated version, I would say B tier, A tier even maybe, depending on kind of how you think about things. With a seated version, I like to make sure that I tilt my head back and sort of do a high incline version so that I can get a maximum stretch on the delts. I don't like it when people stop here, go here, and so a nice full range of motion is good. So I think it's totally fine. Then it's quite a good exercise. The real problem with the shoulder pressing is if you say, hey, what if you just did a high incline press and hit your chest too? Other downsides? And I gotta be honest, like, no, not really. It's like a free additional muscle you can just train with everything else. Because the shoulder press is something you're so strong and it can lift so much in, but also because it doesn't really train a lot of musculature. It's kind of like, why would you try so hard on something that like, people ask like, should I do farmer's carry for traps or forearms? I'm like, are you out of your mind? The fatigue of a farmer's carry, there may be no exercise that's more fatiguing other than stone loading. And like you're training a muscle that's tiny and you could train with dumbbells or machines or a barbell and a rack that you get equal stimulus, if not better, and then just way, way, way less fatigue. So on that ground alone, any kind of overhead press suffers from compared to other exercises. And there are other exercises that might even push it down to a C or B tier, because if you have a very low incline press set up and you have dumbbells in both hands and thumbs up grip, I mean, super deep stretch, full ROM, control the eccentric, direct front delt stimulus, no other muscles really, other than a couple synergists interacting. It's faster to set up, faster warm up for them. On Milo, you know this. It just crushes in kind of all categories. It doesn't have that manhood shit. There's this thing where in the gym, a lot of us lift for the explicit purpose of hypertrophy. It's the stated purpose, but there's a lot of stuff that weaves into the value system we put behind lifting, and thus we choose various lifts. There was a time in which I did full range of motion on vibes, and I used the vibes, and I loved full range of motion as a form of essentially like OCD completeness and the pride that I was better than other people because I wasn't willing to be egotistical about things. I did that and then later discovered that, oh, actually it is more effective intuitively and then through research. But then when length and partial stuff came out, by then luckily I was mature enough to be like, well, I don't care if full range of motion isn't as good. Now almost all my leg stuff, I don't do full ROM anymore. I don't do many lockouts, or as many as I used to, because I like to keep that position in the lower. And so a lot of times when overhead pressing comes up, the number one reason we do overhead pressing is because it's a cultural artifact of people just did it. And now if you reasoned on first principles, wanted to hit the front delts, you probably would not have arrived at the overhead press with a barbell as anything in the top 2 or 3 exercises. It does pain me to say that, but that's just a thing, you know?
Beautiful. So standing overhead press, C tier, seated,
B tier.
Beautiful. What about the dumbbell overhead press, standing and seated?
I mean, standing dumbbell overhead press starts the problem that you spend a lot of muscle activation and cognitive bandwidth trying to stabilize. Some people can pull it off just fine. I see as soon as you sit down, the movement becomes infinitely more effective. Not infinitely, obviously, is hyperbole, but you know, like, and you can see how effective it becomes simply by how much weight you can lift. I mean, you're standing pressing the 40s, you're sitting pressing the 60s. I mean, it's just 1.5 times more weight for the same reps. You're like, well, what's the difference covered by? Like, well, your front delts never get fully activated in standing because you're doing this all the time and your body's not like, I'm not going to fire the thrusters when you can't even fucking stabilize. So I would say, you know, not great. Seated, pretty good, especially if you're not ultra gigantically strong. And so the dumbbell size is limited and you can come to the outsides of your shoulders and get that extra deep stretch. Then it is
Tilt
superior.
the dumbbells get even a bit deeper.
Yep, maybe a neutral grip to tilt and get deeper. Even with big dumbbells, that might work. But then like you end up hitting the bench and all this other shit. Big dumbbells are also so unwieldy. Like it's just tough to fucking set them up and everything.
That's the limitation of standing as well, like getting heavy dumbbells into position when standing.
Can you imagine? Like, what for me, like, what the hell am I going to use for dumbbells and overhead press? Like, I've actually gotten a decent workout using the 40s for standing dumbbell overhead press, but like, decent workout perceptually. But, you know, I'm kidding myself because, like, what, how far away off of my actual front delt rep max is that?
60 pounds per dumbbell?
Right? Like, come on, now we're not, now it's 120 total, but I've overhead pressed 225 for 12. Like, it doesn't make sense. So, yeah, I would say the dumbbell seated version is pretty good, especially if you can get a deep stretch. What I don't like is the way most people do it, which is they get the big dumbbells and they get to the ears and they come back up. And listen, like you and I both know, we've been in gym culture long enough. Most of the reason why people do dumbbell shoulder press is twofold. One, cultural artifact. Like that's just what they see done. That's what the big guys do. And two is like vibes. So you can like lift big dumbbells and like grunt at people. That's it.
Very cool. What tier?
For standing, I mean, D tier, like, at least for overall health and fitness, standing dumbbell overhead press as part of a bar, like dumbbell complex, S tier, amazing, great exercise, full body, everything. For front delt hypertrophy, like if I saw Jared programming it, I'd be like, Jared hit his head, like for sure. So C tier, D tier, the seated version, done wrong, D tier, done right, A tier.
Solid, beautiful. What about the seated Smith machine overhead press? I remember you being a big fan of that a few years ago, or at least you doing it.
Yeah, exactly. I would say B tier in most cases because you don't get that big stretch that you get with dumbbells, but the stability component is thrown out. You can really focus on the mind-muscle connection with the delts and the good setup. You can find a really good track for yourself. It does require a little bit of finagling the seat to find out how to best move it.
And not hit your nose.
Oh my God, yeah. You have to do it. A lot of times it's better actually to do it backwards in the Smith machine so you can press it away from you, which does involve the chest more, which isn't a problem. And it does angle you to kind of expand down and to get the shoulders a lot. But, you know, there is a bit of a setup situation, but I think other than that, it's quite good. So yeah, maybe even, B tier, something like that.
Beautiful. It also has the benefit that most overhead pressing variations don't have, that you start the first rep with an eccentric. And so your strength is consistent. You can go pretty heavy without feeling like the first rep is an absolute RP 10 grinder.
Yes.
Beautiful. Into high beta it goes. Dips. We spoke about this in another video, but...
For front delts. I mean, dips in which you're leaning forward a lot and trying to touch your chest as far forward while going down is an S tier front delt exercise. And Milo, to your credit, because I've never really focused on front delts because I do enough pressing and I have really good genetics for them. It just doesn't fucking matter. But to your credit, I literally learned that from you hours ago when we filmed some other videos, that on biomechanical grounds and in retrospect on kind of like perceptive grounds, it's an S tier exercise for front delts. I mean, and why, to explain to the viewers, because you are using a compound movement on which you can move lots of load. You have an ability to diffuse your central control. The movement is the most difficult and leveraged at the bottom, and the amount of stretch is just unreal, incomparable, and it's easily progressible either by reps or by load with external weight. And so you get in a situation where you're like, if you just check all the boxes, you're like, but there may be no better exercise than a bench dip or a regular forward chest lean dip for front delts. Like that's the only detraction I could have is on the, not on raw stimulus ground, but on the fatigue ground. That's why like a low incline, two-handed dumbbell raise or cable raise is goated, thumbs up, because this just exclusive isolation for the delts. But I think if you really wanted to blast your front delts, 4 set of incline dumbbell front raises, followed by 4 sets of chest forward lean maximum depth dips, bro, your front delts are doing time after that shit.
Speaking of front raises, let's start with the barbell front raise for front delt development.
It's a great exercise. It's not an ideal exercise because in most cases, the force vector isn't maximized at the stretch. Now, if you do an incline barbell front raise where you're like laying down and doing this.
How do you do that? Doesn't the barbell just hit your shit?
It does, yeah. So like it hits you, but at least the force is higher here than otherwise, right? Sure. It's not ideal. Now, if you have a cambered bar, better, right? But then right?
Getting creative, exercise scientists.
Someone's getting the cambered bar up to the incline. You're like, what the hell is that guy doing? But also the problem is that your wrist position definitely does impact your shoulder head activation. So the barbell stuff, I actually use barbell front raises for side delts, and like I get pumped and tension perception in my side delts. That's one of the things, like, I take pump a little bit more seriously than you do. You're a bit more conservative on it, which all due respect, you may be right. But I think pump is, if for nothing else, is great for actually figuring out what you're targeting. Because a lot of times you just feel it everywhere. But if your front delt doesn't look really pumped, but your side delt's swollen, like you're absolutely training your side delt.
And it is one of the functions of the side delt, like shoulder flexion is something the side delts do.
100%. And especially if you pull with your pinkies up a little bit on the bar, or at least parallel on the bar, you're getting lots of side delt, especially with a wider grip. So the barbell stuff works. What I would like better is potentially barbell underhand grip. Kind of weird. Easy bar underhand grip, very front delt. But again, that force curve isn't matched super well. So I would say it's like a B+ tier.
Dumbbells? Standing.
Same.
Same.
Yeah, a little bit better because you can arc the dumbbells directly vertical and hit the front delt right away.
What about the incline front raise? So that's kind of what we spoke about earlier with the barbell?
Incline.
As in an incline bench. So with dumbbells, for example, an incline bench, lying back.
S tier. Because you get, if it's a low incline, approaching flat, you get maximum stretch at the front delts at the bottom. It's almost purely a front delt movement. So first, the force curve matches perfectly, stretch matches perfectly, and it's loadable, it's progressible, it's adjustable to the individual. There's nothing else required. Dumbbells auto adjust to everyone. So like that actually is probably the hardest exercise to beat on any kind of metrics for front delts.
The only thing I can think of maybe is the same, but with cables.
Exactly. For me, cables have one downside, and that's they do develop some friction, and that means the eccentric-concentric ratio shifts and may be slightly unfavorable. It's very speculative for me, but I would say, like, if you have to split the difference, you're losing your mind. So I'd say they're both S tier, like the lying dumbbell curls that I do and the cable free motion behind the back curls. Like, I can't tell you one of them's better than the other. I love them both.
Yep. And I think with the cable specifically, the other issue is the cables are often so far apart that you're kind of doing like a wide to narrow front raise.
Yes,
feels a bit
unless you have a free motion machine.
In
then
which case you
hack the system.
You don't need to worry about shoulders anymore.
Don't just ride your Lambos.
Hey, behind the neck press. Is that good or bad? I can't tell.
Both. So if you have the shoulder joints for it, I would say it's B tier because it really does crank on your front delts. Humongous stretch. Triceps are involved, a little bit of trap, kind of a little bit of side delt too out of that angle. But so it's actually quite good. But that's assuming that your shoulders F like that because most people can over time do that exercise quite well. but some people it just does not fit. And so I would say, probably B tier or something like that, because for some people it just ain't it. As you get bigger, it becomes way more difficult to do an exercise like that.
Final front delt exercise, machine overhead press.
It really depends on the machine. So I'd say B tier. It can be S tier or A tier if it's a really good machine that allows you to get really low below your shoulders and allows for you to have a neutral grip to really isolate the front delt. Then that's one hell of an exercise, especially if the force curve is good. It's real tough at the bottom, real easy at the top. That's a lot of ifs, and which is why the exercise for me is usually a B plus kind of tier exercise.
I hear that. Speaking of stretching, getting your hands beneath your shoulders, one exercise I used to do that isn't even on the list, the camber bar overhead press.
Wow.
It's something.
It's something.
It's a nice stretch.
And you got a real deep feel
I
of
was
that.
basically able to get my elbows all the way to my torso. You get
Yeah.
a decent side delt stretch in a way.
Sure. That's kind of a weird movement.
It
I've done lots of camber bar incline pressing, and at the very bottom, you're like, what is my body doing?
Yeah.
But then your chest gets blown up, and you're like, all right, this is great.
I recently ordered a camber bar for the gym we're building for YouTube, and I haven't used it in 5 years.
You're going to fucking blow up. Don't do any more than 2 sets for chest for the first time you do it, is it?
It's going to be wild. All right, second head, rear delts. The rear delt fly with cable.
With cable. Cross body.
Just one arm, let's say.
One arm at a time. I mean, so one arm at a time for me is like A tier, B tier. On biomechanical grounds is phenomenal. It's not ideal for time utilization. Stimulus to time ratio sucks because you have to switch and stuff. If it's dual cross cable and you're okay with the OCD stuff of going up one or the other, you don't constantly clip yourself. That's an S tier exercise because it's huge stretch. Exactly. If you stand in the right place, you put the clips in the right place, you're getting all the force at the stretch and and lots of force at the stretch too. It's easier at the contraction. One thing that I do, I don't struggle with this, but it's kind of like, I never quite know what to do with my triceps tension. Like, do I relax my triceps? Do I tense them? The triceps do cross both. The long head does cross the shoulder. So actually a triceps long head exercise as well, if you think about it. So I'll put you this way. You'll almost never see me doing them for 2 reasons. One is that I almost never train my rear delts because my back training is so full ROM and shit like that my rear delts get blown up. Same as front delts for chest. I almost only train side delts for shoulders. The other reason is I just hate that exercise on pure vibes. But one thing I'm mature enough to admit is that my vibes mean nothing to anyone who consumes my content, or actually should mean nothing. And so on a technical analysis, A tier to S tier exercises right there.
Beautiful. I was going to say regarding the triceps, it's not only a long head exercise because technically the cable is effectively pushing you into flexion. So you have to asymmetrically stand your elbow.
Yep. But dynamic for the long head.
Yep. Correct. Machine rear delt fly.
C tier. As good as A tier if it's a good machine. If you turn around in it, is that cheating, Milo? Does that...
It's all right.
If you turn to the side and go like this and it's a good machine, then it's, A or S tier exercise. If it's your standard run-of-the-mill commercial rear delt fly, the force curve is usually backward, so it's really hard at the top. Sorry, really hard at the
start.
It's really easy at the start. Impossible here. Sometimes it tracks weird. You don't even feel a connection. The one reason I don't love the 2 arms at a time rear delt stuff is unless you're pulling in a way that can't possibly involve your back much, like with a properly angled face pull, it's really tough. And I'm going to use the wrong nomenclature here, but people understand what I'm saying. It's really tough to keep your back out of it. Not that you want to keep your back out of it, but it just ends up you're just moving weight around. And someone's like, how do your rear delts feel? And you're like, I don't know, to be completely honest, man. Now, if you have an ability to stretch them under high forces and a good machine at the bottom, man, you'll know it's rear delts right away. But a lot of times when it's just constant force curve or if it's flipped force curve, then you're kind of like, this is some fucking C tier shit.
Yeah, it can be tricky to distinguish scapular movement where you're involving your upper back a lot more from just pure horizontal shoulder abduction.
Yes, and there's something to say for natural human movement patterns. Evolution did not design us to isolate our muscles. It actually designed us completely for the opposite, which is integrative movement. And so to teach someone how to recruit muscles for a push mean, a push is one of the most natural human and animal movements. A pull is supernatural. Leg movements are natural because you're designed to jump and sprint. But like to pull on something, but like only use your rear delts is like, your body's like, what? So like you can do it cognitively. As soon as you get to like 5 RIR, your body's like, turn everything on.
Yep. Which is where neuromechanical matching comes in.
Whatever that is.
That's the topic for another video. Cable face pulls.
Cable face pulls suffer from a real nasty force curve problem. But if you get the cable machine angled correctly and you're flexible and mobile enough to get your elbows really far behind, such that the most difficult part of the movement is actually close to here, you can get all the way back here. Here it's most difficult, then here it's easy again. It starts to be a movement that can make sense. And so I would say it can be a B tier movement if optimized. If it's not optimized, it's like a C or D tier movement because you can do it until you're blue in the face and you're like, I don't even know if I feel any delts. It's actually a really good mid-trap movement. But for everything else, it's kind of like meh. Side delts you can do, and a lot of it depends on pulling angle. If you pull properly, sure, rear delts get hit. If you start pulling up, rear delts don't get hit at all. It's all side delts, and not even good. So.
Yeah, I feel like it's a C tier at best. There are worse things out there, but they're few and far between.
Not many.
Yeah, and the way most people do face pulls as well, they typically externally rotate a ton at the top, which then almost turns it into an exercise that is limited by external rotation strength.
Yes.
Which small rotator cuff muscles are responsible for that probably will give up pretty early.
Yes.
Anyways, the bent over face pull with dumbbells, with a barbell, whatever.
So I independently reinvented that exercise a few years back because I realized like, oh, you can do a face pull with anything. The problem is this exercise is profoundly difficult at the top and profoundly easy at the bottom, and also systemically drains your spinal erector musculature. Systemic fatigue is really high. So I'd say, like, as much as it pains me to say this, like, it's D tier exercise. It's a cool exercise to become functionally strong and competent at pulling things from that angle. So like I might see athletes of various sorts doing it, but for hypertrophy purposes, I mean, like almost every rear delt exercise is better.
Yep. I think the only time I would do it is if I had nothing but a barbell, basically.
Yeah.
It's a bent over dumbbell fly.
Same as face pull, just total dog shit. The other problem is like getting the angles right of keeping your thumbs down the entire time can help. I also struggle on movements in which there's not a distinct clicking end point and beginning. Like even a bent row, you touch your tummy, you touch the ground. You touch your tummy, or even if you don't touch the ground, you touch your tummy, you're a full extension. You touch your tummy, pull-ups, chin, depth, chin, depth. Where the hell do rear delt flies end? Where do they begin? They begin at some point here where there's nothing going on. They end at some point here where you're just under a lot of pain and discomfort. You don't even know if your delts are on. And so like, yeah, just not great. And again, one of those exercises that people just mostly do on cultural history. It's just what people do. And he was better than you. So you had better pay your penance.
Austrian.
Oh, that's right. Well, you're quite large.
Not as large as the Austrian oak. Final exercise, the incline dumbbell rear delt fly. So basically the same exercise done on an incline bench.
C tier because you have chest support. But I would say if you're going to throw the incline in there, just wheel it over to the cable station and do the cross cable on the incline. And then you have an A tier exercise.
If not S tier. All right. Rear delts covered. Now for the final bit, the juiciest bit, the side delts. Let's start with the dumbbell lateral raise.
On accessibility and technical difficulty, it ranks as a B or A tier exercise because you're always going to be able to do dumbbell laterals. And what kind of gym doesn't have some dumbbells, right? Like even a CrossFit gym has maybe kettlebells, and then for sure you can do it. As far as on technical qualities, C tier, B tier, maybe. One of the reasons that I used to do a lot of super ROM laterals was because at least from the 45 degree over to 45 under position, I could feel some fucking resistance because people were like, just do them from here to here. And I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck I'm doing. There's no goddamn force down there. So I would say, yeah, like if I'm being clever, I would say B tier. If I'm being straightforward, I would say C tier. The thing is I use them all the time because they're round, they're easy, they're accessible, and they don't generate a ton of fatigue. Their raw stimulus magnitude isn't amazing, but you can overcome that with just lots of volume. And because the fatigue component isn't high, the stimulus fatigue ratio is actually quite good. It's just that they could just be infinitely better if you did them with like some kind of cable setup or something like that.
Speaking of cables, the cable lateral.
Set up properly to have the tension and a stretch. And if you cross in front of your body like this on the reps, and then on the other sets cross in front, I mean, S tier, it checks every single box. I love also the ability to come all the way up and feel no tension here to really regroup for that fucking nasty eccentric and then do it again. I just think it's awesome. And then amazing length and partials, just every box checked. The only thing is just like, you need a setup for it. I would say in the real world, most gyms don't have a free motion machine. You're not going to be that guy that takes 2 cable stacks 9 times out of 10, not at 5 p.m. in London when everyone's at the fucking gym. And so it's a bit of a tough case, whereas you get some dumbbells and you're fucking rocking. So on practicality, I would say it's kind of C tier. On actual raw effect, it's S tier exercise.
What about the machine lateral raise?
Depends heavily on the machine. Good machines, it's an A tier exercise. A machine that has yet to be invented with a cam system and that allows you to touch the handles all the way in front together, or even potential to do one arm at a time, that would be S tier. And then it would be super hard here and easy up here. But modern versions, I mean, like the Atlantis is probably in the grand scheme kind of B tier. Again, I use it all the time, even more than I use, probably about as much as I use cables. And the reason I do that is because, like, you just click the selectorized weight, put in your versos and go. Also, the Atlantis machine has like the gnarliest gripper handle ever. You're just going nowhere, bro. And as soon as your body detects that your grip is strong, it just activates a shitload of tension. And so it also has consistent tension throughout, which makes it better than dumbbells. Here to here, it's the same tension as here to here. Ideally, it would be more, but damn, we're getting there, you know?
Better than nothing.
Yeah.
All right. Earlier I mentioned that I think the lying side raise is pretty solid and underrated.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
I mean, so like technical qualities, it's an S tier exercise. I've tried to futz with it and I might in the future succeed, but like to me it's just awkward and weird. And like I get to here and then I'm up here and I don't feel tension anymore. And like this kind of weird small ROM. I'm like, am I even doing anything? And
Story of my life.
right. The girl's like, no, you're not doing anything. You're like, very well. You were great. I'll see you
partial?
later.
No,
Yeah.
it's my full ROM.
I wasn't even in. I'm also like wobbling on the bench. But if you can stabilize yourself and get into that ROM, I mean, it's A tier, S tier kind of stuff.
Beautiful. Now, 2 sides of the same coin. The lean in lateral raise, where you're holding on to something for stability and you're leaning into the movement. And then lean out, where effectively you're leaning into the support and you have your arm pressed up against you.
Yeah. Lean in is like C tier because it's cool. It does some stuff, easy to set up, good variation, backwards force curve. Lean out of the movement is A tier. It's like I would like for it to have more stretch. I would like for it to be easier to lean, and because a lot of times like my hips are doing something, my arm starts getting numb. I wish there was like a machine which like strapped me in a belt and then leaned me over and I could just do it. Then I'd be S tier. But yeah, A tier for sure in that case.
Finally, we have the scapular plane lateral raises.
I hate the term scapular plane. Fucking name a plane after a moving object. In dumbbell or machine or
Dumbbell,
cable?
just like categorically compared to the traditional arm path.
Oh, roughly even. I would say maybe even a little bit better because most people find that more comfortable. It's probably even side delt activity, especially if you make sure to tilt your thumbs down a little bit. So I like it. I think it's great. And I've been using an incline version, which actually is a little bit more better force profile and a really low incline. And so I do them like that. And then like for me, it's a great exercise. It's a super staple movement.
Beautiful. A couple of exercises I used to like a lot, but nowadays I'm a bit more skeptical of. The barbell upright row and the dumbbell upright row.
Yeah, so it suffers from the same force curve problem that there's no tension at the stretch, really. The barbell upright row pulling to above the face and then slowing down eccentrically. I'm dealing with a few nagging jiu-jitsu injuries right now, and I can't do laterals because my elbow's going to fall off. So I started doing some upright rowing again, and it feels good, really good raw stimulus magnitude. It's not ideal, so I would say like C tier, B tier. Dumbbell upright rows, I think, are C tier, more like B tier, because what I have some kind of weird neck injury from jiu-jitsu that if I do a single hard set of only dumbbell upright rows, the only exercise that does it, I will have like fasciculations in my trap and my arm will get super fucking painful and numb, like just weird, some kind of cervical bullshit. So that's not fun. I don't do them anymore. I used to do them all the time. And one thing I love to do is doing a superset of dumbbell lateral raises followed by dumbbell upright rows. Or if you're a real masochist, a triple superset where you start with super round laterals, then same weight, regular laterals, then same weight, dumbbell upright rows. And then a fourth bonus is same weight, but bottom end partial laterals. Like you can legitimately go in and in 2 minutes get a really great side delt workout by doing 4 sets supersetted. Like literally, that's a thing.
Drop set with 1 pair of dumbbells, basically.
Amazing, right? Mechanical drop sets are super dope. Or I would say I hate overrated, underrated because always my bullshit technical question is like, by who? What is the population?
Your perception of the average.
Exactly. So I think, to avoid that nomenclature, I would say mechanical drop sets in general are just so useful.
S tier bussin' for overall.
Like Drake is like this to it, I really, really love them. And I think people who don't know about them, when they find out that they are real, are like, holy crap. It's like, it just doubles your exercise variation instantly for a ton of movements.
Yeah. All right. All exercises ranked, but now give your best on average. Context matters. Insert terms and conditions. Your favorite front delt, side delt, and rear delt exercise for the average lifter for hypertrophy.
Front delt, bench dips. Google that if you want to know what it is. Put a plate on your shit, put your feet on one bench, put your hands on the other. Slow eccentric, 2-second pause at the bottom. Thank me later. For rear delt, I would say dual neutral grip cable fly, where you're standing such that it's maximally difficult here and then no loading at all at the top. And then for side delt, I would say that overhand grip behind the back cable laterals. I love. I usually can't do them because the cable clicks into itself and will catch, and my OCD does not allow things like that, so just avoid it. But I'll watch Trevor Fulbright, who people should follow on Instagram, do them all the time, and I'm like,
beautiful.
Caviar.
Mike, 3D delts covered. Tier list on screen. We'll see you
Awesome. Thank you so much.